Hey, what's going on, my dudes? This is Shred and welcome to my practical guide to Jubilee. This video is designed to help you quickly understand Jubilee's mechanics, basic strategy, and give you some exercises for the lab so that you can hit the ground running. So whether you are a quick play casual or ranked warrior or just want a better understanding of this character, this is the video for you. So for me, when learning a new character, I like to build them from the ground up by first understanding their pros and cons. So beginning with her pros, Jubilee has incredibly high healing output. It is dependent on her orbs, but still, she has some of the highest healing output in the entire game. Simultaneously, she has really good damage output as well. She also has high mobility with her sparking sprint ability, and she has really low cooldown so you can constantly press buttons. So if you like pressing buttons, Jubilee is a great strategist for you. And then finally, her ultimate ability, Firework Finale, heals the team, it deals damage, and it also knocks up opponents. It is one of the most overtuned ults over all the strategists. And now let's go over some of Jubilee's cons. She is an insanely complex character. You are constantly managing and juggling her orbs. There is never a time when you're not thinking about or trying to actually put out orbs, which we'll go over to later. On top of that, you're trying to get around Black Panthers that are backlining you, and Magic players that are backlining you. You're trying to think about healing your team, doing damage to the other team, all while trying to juggling orbs. She is a very complex character, which also means that she's a very difficult character. On the difficulty scale, it says that she's a 4-star difficulty. I would honestly say that she's a 5-star difficulty. She is a pretty difficult character, which is actually completely understandable considering how high her healing output is. It takes a lot to get that healing out, but it is incredibly high and incredibly rewarding once you figure that out. And then last is she relies on her orbs to buff her healing instead of her base attack. So she is not at all like Invisible Woman, Cloak and Dagger, or White Fox. She is heavily dependent on her orbs and her different abilities to put out that high healing output. And now let's quickly go over her attacks, her abilities, and her team up abilities. Her main attack, which is her energy plasmoids, it's basically a consistent stream of fireworks that heals your allies and deals damage to your opponents. Really simple, really easy to use, but if you notice that on your bottom left, it shows that you have 48 rounds, which is actually quite a lot considering her fire rate. One thing I wanted to point out is as you use your abilities, you're probably going to be holding down your left click the entire time. This is something that you're consistently going to be doing, but her main attack does a decent amount of healing and a decent amount of damage that is buffed through her abilities, which we're about to go over. Starting out with her sparking sprint, it increases the fire rate or movement speed, and it gives you a super jump. While it is active, your ammo does not deplete. So that's something to consider whenever you actually, pop a sparking sprint. And when you actually put marks on both allies and enemies later, your ammo actually does not deplete either, which we're going to go over just in a little bit. Now, when Sparking Sprint finishes, you actually heal for 30 HP. And if you have an ally next to you, they also heal for a small amount. But if you have an enemy next to you, it does a small amount of damage and they are also knocked back. Now notice in the middle of the screen there's a meter. It's right, kind of in the middle a little bit to the right. That is actually your Sparkle Sprint meter. It doesn't have to be full to be used because the cooldown actually finishes before the meter is full, but it's always something to consider before you use your actual sprint because the meter is going to just barely fill up by the time you can actually use it again. The sprint is actually great for jumping into fights, for placing orbs, and also for filling orbs, which is the main use of it actually, which we're going to go over in the next ability. But it is also great for escaping dives as well. Your best practice when fights actually begin is to throw an orb and then hit sprint to fill the orb. Now going over her blooming ball ability, which is the orbs I was just talking about, this is actually Jubilee's most important mechanic and what you are going to be spending most of your focus on the entire game. Her blooming ball is pretty much her strategy loop. So a blooming ball is an orb that is placed and it follows either your ally or opponent, whoever's closer, and it heals your allies and does damage to your opponents, whoever is within the sphere of the orb. Now, when the orb is placed, it does have a 6-second cooldown, but when you fill it, it resets with a 10-second cooldown. This can be filled by hitting your allies or your enemies who are inside the orb sphere. You do not have to hit the orb directly, just whoever is in the sphere, by hitting them, it fills the orb and actually causes it to grow. Now, here's something to really pay attention to. You can monitor the orbs countdown in the middle of the screen. You'll notice the 2 orbs is purple and yellow. It is very difficult to keep track of, but it's very important to keep track of the orbs cooldown, especially in the midst of a fight. Now, the orbs can be ignited or retracted. We will go over the ignition in just a second with the dazzling detonation ability, but as far as calling the orb back, I actually do this a lot, and this is where the juggling comes in. I do find myself calling the orb back very often for 2 reasons. Number 1, to move the orb closer to the fight, and 2, to hold a stock of orb while the first is on cooldown and your ignite is on cooldown. In my opinion, it's always best practice to always have a stock of orb ready. Something that's also important that you need to consider is that you can retract the orb from anywhere, from behind a wall or pretty much anywhere on the map as long as you're within range, but you cannot ignite the orb unless you're in the line of sight. You have to be within the line of sight to actually ignore it. So you'll notice, I go behind the wall, I can retract it, but I can't ignite it. Go away from the wall, I can ignite it. Go behind the wall, I cannot. So you have to be within the line of sight of an orb to actually ignite it. Now, moving to the dazzling detonation, this is the ignition of the orb. So once an orb is ignited, it affects any of the players that are inside the sphere of the orb. It heals allies and it does give them a bit of a speed boost, and it does damage your opponents and it causes a brief blindness. You see the little eye that's up there, that means that they're blinded. And last is it places a sparkle mark, which leads me to her passive, the sparkle mark. A sparkle mark is placed by either your detonation or your ultimate. If you place a sparkle mark, it actually increases your fire rate and it does not deplete your ammo for a set amount of time. So this is really important when I get to the gameplay loop and our basic strategy, but it is very important to place the sparkle mark. Allies with the mark get a boost in healing as well as bonus health, and then your opponents with the mark take more damage. Now onto her ultimate ability, the Firework Finale. This is actually an insanely overtuned ultimate ability. I would argue that it's even better than Luna Snow or Mantis's ultimate ability. It heals your allies, it damages your opponents, it applies a sparkle mark to anyone inside it, and upon initiating the ult, it actually knocks opponents back. So every ability boost that I just went over, you are basically able to use for 10 straight seconds. And now onto her team up ability. As of right now, the only good option is Vampiric Kin, at least in my opinion, which is Blade's team up ability. This basically gives you lifesteal to any ally who is near you. There's a little red circle that appears. It doesn't have a lot of range on it, but it's very simple to use. You just make sure to hit it before you go into a team fight. It may be hard to monitor during the fog of war because it's, the cooldown is like right at the bottom of the screen, not like right in the middle like your orbs are, but I would try to remember to always keep it on. Now, the reason I say that Vampiric Kin is really the only good one as of right now is because Hellfire Spark's passive will give an enhancement when the hood is released. So the hood is not out yet, so there is no enhancement. I mean, you only get enhancement with Vampiric Kin if you have Blade, but the ability itself is actually really, really good. So if you are going to use it, I would only use it if you're going with the 3 strategist team comp, because all it really does is give you lifesteal anytime you get a rapid fire, whether that is with Sparking Sprint or by placing a sparkle mark. Now, let's get into her basic strategy. Jubilee's strategy is actually very simple, but it is very difficult to execute and difficult to maintain. Your basic strategy is to place your orb, fill your orb, ignite your orb to apply sparkle marks, then place your second orb, calling it back so that you can always have a stock of orb on cooldown, and then rinse and repeat. As I said before, your best practice is to try and always keep at least 1 orb stock on hand. However, each situation is going to be completely different because you want to time it with your cooldowns and you may need to place multiple orbs simultaneously. That's when you get into juggling the orbs. So for instance, if you were in the midst of a team fight and no one is diving you, which is rare, but let's just say no one is diving you, but your team is taking a lot of damage, it may be all right to throw out 2 orbs right in the middle of the battle for more healing and for more damage. Or let's say that you are taking dives. You may need to leave an orb with you on top of the orb that is out with your team. Like most things in Marvel Rivals, everything is situational. But if you stick to the strategy loop, Learn to watch your cooldowns. You can survive anything and you will do wonders for your team. And also, I can't say this enough, stick to your role. As a strategist, you are first and foremost a healer, not a damage dealer. You are not a duelist. You cannot be up front. Always remember, as a strategist, you are primarily a healer. Stick to your role. And now I mentioned in my intro that I have an exercise for you guys. So this is an exercise that is just to teach you orb management and juggling the orbs. In a match, it's not always going to be this way, but in fact, it's rarely going to be exactly like this, but it helps you to watch for your cooldowns and learn when to ignite your orbs. You're actually going to turn off your ability cooldowns. This is why I don't think this is ever going to appear this way exactly in a match. So the basic exercise goes is you're going to throw your orb, you're going to use your sprint, fill the orb, then you're going to throw another orb on your enemies, fill that orb, and watch for your first orb to hit 1 second. Then you ignite that first orb and then throw down another and fill that one while watching your cooldown on the second orb. And you're going to do that over and over again. The idea is to always have 2 orbs going and never have to reload because of your sparkle marks. But remember, this is just an exercise. This is just to get you used to managing your orbs and juggling the orbs. And now this is your second exercise, which is basically practicing your gameplay loop. This is where you throw an orb, use sprint till the orb is full, detonate the orb, marking your allies, then throw out another orb, and then calling it back to hold a stock of orb. You want to watch your orbs cooldowns and your detonation cooldown. If you timed it right, you should always have a stock of orb while abilities are on cooldowns. Once you get used to this, take it to a match and have some fun. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope that this guide actually helps you grow as both a Marvel Rivals player and as a Jubilee player and as a strategist in general. Please comment down below what you think. If there's anything I missed or anything you want to add, I would really like to hear it because I too want to grow along with you guys. So if you have other strategies or have other mechanics that you like to use with Jubilee, please make sure to mention in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Shred out.